it's Meagan. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some meal ideas and my meal plan for the rest of my pantry challenge. When I went through and showed you my freezer and pantry inventory from last week, I made an itemized list of the things that I actually have. And from that, I came up with a bunch of meal ideas for breakfasts, lunches, and dinners. So my inventory lists, I wrote down the things that were I did write down all of the things, but I also, when I came up with my meal ideas, I kind of put higher priority to a lot of my different cuts of meat was kind of my main focus. In my inventory, I have 6 pounds of breakfast sausage. I have 7 pounds of link smoked sausage. I had 3 things of bacon. I have already used one of those, which is awesome. I have 3 roasts, and I have 2 packages of sirloin steak. I have 1 package of stew beef, 1 package of burgers, which has 4 burgers in them. I have 2 packages of hot dogs. We've actually have already opened up one of those and are about halfway done with those. I have 2 packages of pepperoni, and as of last night's dinner, I actually was able to open up one of those packages and get about maybe a third of the way through it. So we're currently at 1 full package plus a partially opened package that we need to get through. I also have about 15 to 18 packages of ground beef, and those are 1 pound to 2 pound, usually between 1 and 1.5 pounds of ground beef in each package. So I have lots of ground beef I need to get through, and I also have 6 1 pound packages of ground turkey. So I also have half a package of meatballs from Sam's Club. I have a box of tortellini, of fresh tortellini, and a package of fresh ravioli that I have frozen. I also have about a dozen Rhodes frozen rolls in my freezer. And I have 4 packages of the raw ready-to-cook tortillas. I've pulled one of those out for us to start using, and then I still have 3 in my freezer. I had 2 freezer meals of chicken pot pie. We actually ate one of those earlier this week, so now I currently just have 1 of those left in my freezer. I also have 1 frozen pizza for super quick, easy night, and I have 1 pork shoulder roast that I probably won't be getting to. That's not the highest priority on my list. And I also have 1 freezer meal that's a sweet and sour meatball recipe that my family really likes. And then we also had 1 ham in my freezer, but we actually were able to eat that on Sunday night with a bunch of my family came over and helped us eat that. So that was 1 thing that we've already gotten out of our freezer. And then in my pantry, I do have quite a backstock of a lot of things, as you guys have seen in my pantry tour videos and in my grocery hauls. But what I'm prioritizing most are spaghetti and Alfredo sauces, because I have a ton of those and we don't actually use them as often as I think we do. So I'm trying to really work my way through those and kind of get them down to a reasonable number that we would actually use within a year. So I'm prioritizing eating those, using those in recipes, and then also pastaroni and mac and cheese, boxed mac and cheese. I'm also trying to prioritize working my way through those as well, because we definitely have more than a year's supply of those. So I want to kind of eat those down to be, again, a more reasonable amount. I also have a ton of backstock of just regular pasta in a variety of shapes. So I'm also prioritizing trying to eat more of that pasta so that, again, I can get it down to a manageable amount. Okay, so now for some of the meal ideas that I have. For breakfasts, I have right here on my list. So for breakfast, I have breakfast burritos. Those will use up some of the sausage that I have, as well as some of the tater tots that I have in my other freezer. I didn't write those down necessarily because they weren't a huge priority for me, but I do have tater tots in my freezer, and we have quite a lot of eggs right now. So I can make breakfast burritos. So that's a good breakfast idea for us. I'm going to make sausage cheese balls, which I believe I've shared the recipe for that before. If I have, I'll make sure that I link that in the iCards for you. And we're going to be making those for a party that we have at the beginning of May. So I know for sure I'll make that. I also want to make a biscuits and gravy casserole that can use up some of the crescent roll and biscuits that I have, crescent roll dough and biscuits that I have in my fridge, as well as some of the cream cheese. And it will also use some of the breakfast sausage. I also want to make a tater tot breakfast casserole. Again, that will use sausage, tater tots, as well as some of the cheese that I have in my fridge. I want to make another batch of my croissant casserole that will help use up some additional croissants that I have in my freezer, as well as some of the bacon and eggs that I already have in my fridge. And then also for breakfasts, I can make muffins. I have quite a few muffin mixes in my pantry, as well as applesauce bread. I have a lot of home canned applesauce. So making the applesauce bread, I just haven't made it in a while, and everyone in my family loves it, and it's super easy to make. So I should get back into making that for my family for sure. For lunches, specifically for my girls, to help work through a lot of the food that we have, is I want to prioritize having them do smoothies at least once, if not 2 or 3 times a week. For their lunches, we have a ton of frozen fruit that I really, really want to get through because it's already a couple months old and I don't want it to go too much longer. Otherwise, it'll start to go bad. So definitely smoothies a few times a week. Again, for their lunches is probably where we're going to be working through the boxed mac and cheese and the boxed pastaroni. My girls both like both of those things, and so those are easy, quick lunches that I can just make, and it feeds them quickly, and I can also make a lunch for myself out of those as well. I also want to do like a snacky lunch with them at least once a week. This will help go through. We have a ton of backstock of crackers, and so having that with probably some of the pepperoni or deli ham that we have in the fridge, as well as some of the cheese that we have in the fridge, and I can pair all of that with a smoothie and with some of the other fresh fruit or canned fruit that we have on hand. And that again will help us go through a lot of the things that we already have on hand. I also have quesadillas to help us go through the tortillas, spaghetti to help us go through the pasta sauce and some of the pasta that we have. And then also for lunches, especially with snacky lunches, they would be happy to have muffins or applesauce bread with whatever else they are eating. So those breakfast items I can use in a couple of different instances, which will be helpful go through a lot of that food. Okay, so for my meals that we have, I'm planning on us doing hash probably 3 or 4 times over the next 6 weeks. And when I make the hash, I'm going to be doubling the meat. Usually when I make it, I just use one of my smoked link sausages. But this time, the next couple times I'm making it, I'm probably going to use 2 things of sausage just so that we can make sure we're working our way through that sausage. And I can also make Mongolian beef. I haven't made that before, but I'm going to use my packages of the sirloin steak to make Mongolian beef because that's something that we really enjoy when we go out, but I've never actually made it at home before. So that's going to be a new recipe that we're going to try. I also could make tater tot casserole, which would use up, again, some of the ground beef that we have, some of the tater tots, as well as some of the corn, because I have quite a bit of corn and we haven't been eating that a ton. So that would be a good way to use some of that. Also, I have on my list that I can make tacos, just ground beef tacos that would help use up the tortillas, the beef, corn, seasonings that I have, and cheese and sour cream that I have on hand all the time. Meatloaf is also a really good way for me to use a lot of ground beef, and I probably wouldn't put as much filler in it as I usually do, because usually I'm trying to get my meat to stretch farther, but currently I'm just trying to eat down my freezer. So I probably wouldn't add as much filler as I usually do and have it be more meat heavy, which would be fine with my family. There's a sausage tortellini potato soup that I want to make that can use some of the breakfast sausage, some of my potatoes that I have in my pantry, as well as that package of tortellini that I have in the freezer. Like I mentioned before, I have that half bag of meatballs. I'll make some kind of sauce for those and I'll serve those at the party that we're having at the beginning of May. And then, like I said, I already have a freezer meal of sweet and sour meatballs, so we'll have that one night. I already have a meal of chicken pot pie. We'll have that again another night in a couple of weeks. I can do Mississippi roast. I'm probably going to do that this Sunday, and maybe even possibly make 2 of my roasts. And then we'll eat the Mississippi roast for dinner that night. Maybe have some people over, have it with mashed potatoes that I already have on hand, as well as some of the rolls that I have in the freezer. And then from the leftovers from that, I will make some beef roll-ups where I mix the beef with some cream cheese and put them inside of crescent rolls and dip those in butter and breadcrumbs and bake them. And just are these little like pockets that we can have then for lunches or for dinner for the next couple of nights and days. I can also make lazy lasagna, which is just like a layered, I can use the ravioli and just make like a layered pasta dish with the ravioli, cheese, pasta sauce, and just kind of layer that on top of each other and bake it. I could also make that as a freezer meal to take to somebody, which is another good option to have. And then I can also make bubble up pizza, which is where we use like cut up biscuit dough, mix it with some tomato sauce, some mozzarella cheese, some pepperoni, and it makes kind of like a pizza casserole type thing. I also am planning on making some homemade pizzas, or last night I made some stromboli, which helped use up a lot of the pepperoni and some Italian sausage that I had in my freezer. And everyone really liked that, so I might make that again, or like I said, make just some more homemade pizzas to help us go through the pepperoni. So those are some of my ideas for meals that we're going to be having over the next couple of weeks. As I go along this, I will be sharing some of the meals that we're making. I'll put some of the meals that I've been making in a video that you guys will see in a couple of weeks. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.